everyone to today's webinar. My name is Mike Kimbrough. I am the Managing Director for Solver. And today I'm going to be demonstrating the Solver Corporate Performance Management solution. And for those of you that aren't familiar with Corporate Performance Management or CPM, it essentially encompasses reporting, budgeting, forecasting, consolidations, and analytics. So we'll be focusing on that today. So I think everyone on the session today understands the value of data in today's business climate. And the goal of today's presentation is to show you how Solver can help you become more of a data-driven organization. So maybe you struggle with accessing your data, or you don't have the tools to gain the insight into your data. What are the impacts if I make a change, or how can I get this information in a timely manner to make better data-driven decisions? So if you're experiencing those types of challenges, you're in the right place today. So how do you know if you should be looking at a CPM solution? I think these bullet points well represent the typical problems. So if you are struggling to get one single source of the truth, or you have disparate data across the organization, you lack the visibility that you need into your data or the organization, you have inadequate data, or you're not getting that data in timely fashion in order to make the decisions when you need to, based off the right data. These are kind of the typical problems that we'll see with people that are looking at Solver. And of course, there's always the manual effort that goes along with it. So if you're spending a lot of time, time is money, obviously. If you're spending a lot of time trying to integrate your data or consolidate that data for the purpose of reporting, it's a burdensome process. We all know what that can be. So it's also very prone to error. Maybe you're just heavily reliant on Excel. Maybe using it for reporting, budgeting, forecasting, and there's a whole host of challenges that go along with that. Your inability to have real-time information, to share that information, becomes very challenging. So these are kind of the things that we typically see. So if you're experiencing this, again, you're in the right place. So how does Solver make this all work for you, right? That's probably the question that you have. So the first step within the Solver environment is to get access to that data and get a hold of that data that you have across the organization and integrate that data into one platform, one source of the truth. And what you can see here is that we've represented a few different types of data sources below. So you see web stats, your HR payroll, your ERP, your CRM solution, any type of data source that you have across the organization, we can bring it into the Solver environment. And it won't matter to us whether that data is in a public cloud environment, whether it's hosted, or whether it's on-premise, we can get to all of that data. And the way that we do that is we have a number of pre-built integrations that bring that data into the Solver environment, but we also have generic tools. So if you have something that's maybe very proprietary to you, and we don't have a pre-built connector for that, we can use one of the generic tools to be able to bring that data into the data warehouse. So rest assured, we can get all of the data into the Solver data warehouse, and that is the most important thing. That's the foundation of everything that you'll do from that point forward. So you've got all of your data, right? And what you need next is all of the tools that sit on top of that data, right? To be able to give you the information in the format that you want it. So Solver has, at the foundation, a pre-built data warehouse. We're very Microsoft centric. So we're only available in the Microsoft Azure cloud. We use a Microsoft SQL data warehouse that Solver's pre-built. We use Excel for our add-in for reporting and planning, and then we use Power BI for our dashboards. So if you want to deliver formatted reports to your users, Solver has that capability through an application. If you want to be able to do Budgeting and forecasting, it's very similar to our reporting. It's also an Excel add-in, and very important to point out, if your users aren't designing reports or templates, they would never leave the cloud environment, right? This is strictly related to design. So Excel for planning and your budgeting and forecasting. And whenever you go through the process of budgeting and you save those budgets, or you go through that approval process, that budget information is stored in the budget tables back into the data warehouse. So we're really starting to open this up now. So you save your budget information, it goes back to the data warehouse, it's immediately available for reporting or analytics, right? So again, the power of that one source of the truth. The last part of this would be our relationship with Power BI. So again, being very Microsoft centric, Solver has a pre-built integration for Power BI, Microsoft certified integration, that allows you to deliver all of that same data out to Power BI. So how do you want to deliver the information to your users is really the question. So what you see here is just a few examples of some templates that we have. So maybe you want to deliver your information in what we call an auto narrative. So what's an auto narrative? It's basically predefined language that will change based on the results that are returned with your report or your query, right? So take board reporting, very, very powerful stuff. You don't have to go and type out every month. You know, if the month was better this period than it was last period, it will say, you know, whatever language you've determined. The revenue this month was great, and the revenue this month was good. However you want that to be, can be configured with an auto narrative. Maybe you want to be able to see things more segmented. You like conditional formatting with traffic lights. You like to see those indicators. You know, you can build that as well. Maybe you've got a sales team that prefers something that's more dashboard driven. So you can see here an example of a Power BI dashboard. And keep in mind, I'll be showing you a lot of these examples. These are just for reference. But maybe they want to see more of a visual view of the data. Or maybe you want to do something like an executive briefing where you're mixing, you know, graphical information along with, you know, more of that formatted view. And of course, Power BI using something like just KPI dashboards, all of this can be created. Really, if you can dream it up, you can design it within the Solver environment. Again, across all of your data, okay? So also to help you get started, Solver has a template marketplace. So we have hundreds of pre-built templates. That means reports, budgets, forecasts, and dashboards that you can choose from. And a large percentage of those will work out of the box, okay? So what if we don't have something pre-built for you that you like? No problem. You can always build the reports and dashboards and any type of template to fit your business requirements. So the whole idea of this is not only gathering all the data across your organization, but being able to present it in the way that your users want to consume that data, okay? With that, I'm gonna go ahead and get started on the demonstration. So I'm gonna get started with just talking a little bit about, in general, how Solver works. So I'm gonna kind of skip through some things here on the menu, but I'm gonna go right into, you know, we've got 45 minutes, so I wanna go right into the heart of reporting. So within Solver, again, I'll say this, you can have as many variations of a report as you want. You can create any type of report that you want. That report can be operational, statistical, financial, you know, whatever you want. The key is just making sure that we've gathered that data, right? We brought that data in from whatever your data sources are. So you can create categories, and you can either set these categories for the users or allow the users to define their own categories, such as favorites. They can create categories on the fly. So very easy to go and categorize your reports. So here I've selected my favorites, and you can see all the reports that I have as favorites. And you can also always search your favorites. So if I wanted to go and look for P&L as an example, I'd be able to see what P&Ls that I have available within this category. I can always go and select additional categories as well, okay? If I were to remove the categories, of course, I could see all of the P&L reports that I have in total, and what you see is that I have quite a few of them. So again, you can create as many variations of a report as you like. This works with any type of report that you want to build. Okay, so I'm going to just go into, open up a report. I'm going to start off with finance, but keep in mind, I'm talking about, you know, a 360-degree view of the business. So everybody that's on the call is going to have a different business and a different vertical line. I think we're all going to have the financial component as a commonality here. So I'm going to focus a little bit on this just to show you how the tool works. And then I'll give you some examples of, you know, maybe some CRM stuff and some manufacturing stuff in both formatted reports as well as Power BI dashboards. So here I'm looking at a report, you know, standard profit and loss. As you know, this is one of many that I have. If you were to look at this report and say, well, this isn't how I would like this report, no problem. You can build this report however you want. One of the things you're going to notice right off the bat is you're going to notice, you know, by looking at these, this conditional formatting, that this report was built in Excel. But here I am in the Solver, you know, cloud environment. And if I were to scroll down, you'll see other indicators like I have expansion groups and things of that nature, right? So, you know if you can dream it up and design it in Excel, you can build it within the Solver environment. So, kind of starting just at the top, you know, you've got all this information. What you want to do is you want to put it into a usable fashion, right? So the data warehouse does a lot of that work for you. And the updates of the data are all happening on the back end, so it's not something that you have to worry about as a user of Solver. Just know that your data is refreshing at whatever frequency that you decide. So you'd like to be able to further filter that data. So what you see is parameters here, and these parameters can be defined by the person that builds the report. So I could have rows of parameters if I wanted to that would help me you know, further filter the report. And if I had too many, I could obviously hide all of those parameters as well. So if I were to go in and say, hey, I wanted to run this report, and maybe I've got multiple companies as an example, and I wanted to select a couple of different companies. I'd like to select Australia and Canada, and I'd like to use that value and just run that report. You can see just how fast that I can, you know, I can really get to all of that information across my organization. Now imagine that this was manufacturing and I was looking at products, or this is CRM and I was looking at customers. I'd be able to filter the parameters the way that I wanted to be able to get to that information. So, then you can also do comparisons. So here I'm looking at a budget. So if I actually pull this slider down a little bit, and if I make it look a little bit more like Excel, you can see that in column G, I have a budget. What if I have multiple budgets, or what if I wanted to use a forecast or some other information in here? Well, I have that as a parameter. I could simply just come up here and say, show me budget version number 15, and that information would be there instantaneously, or a forecast, et cetera, et cetera. So I have a lot of power to be able to query my data and filter that data to be able to get the results that I need in a very short period of time, okay? So within the tool, lots of things that you can do. You can always add comments anywhere within a report or a budget template. So whether you want those to be in a column, you want those to be in a row, a cell, however you wanted it to look. If you wanted to have a sheet that was comments, maybe information or directions to the users, you could do that as well. And you can also do comment sheets. So this is really a sheet that's related to the report. So imagine this could be a sales report, and I was talking about the probabilities of close for certain customers. I can also go and get different templates to add. So here, if you didn't like this template and you said, I'd like to add monthly management comments, I could apply that and replace it. And I would have, oops, I used the same template again. Let's go and get financial performance review, sorry, and apply that. And you'd see that I would have a different template that I can use. All of these templates are built within Excel as well. So if you want to build something that's specific to your organization in terms of how you handle commentary, very easy to do that. And when anybody ever runs this report, they're they're going to run it for this entity, this scenario, and this period. They're going to always see whatever comments that I added and saved in here, or any commentary sheet that's associated with it, right? It wouldn't show up, for example, for October of this year, because I only attached this for that particular year. So a lot of commentary. And you also can see within this report auto narrative. Remember, I talked a little bit about that in the opening PowerPoint, where I said you might want to do a board report with auto narrative. This is a small example of auto narrative. I didn't type any of this in. It's just providing me results based on the query or the parameters that I ran up here. And it will change based on the results. Okay. So again, just to recap, these are ideas in terms of how you want to build a report. If you want to see more periodic information or less, or commentary, you can do all of that quite easily. Throughout Solver, very simple to share reports with users. This is a very powerful thing. You just click the name, you send it to them. You don't have to worry about, are you sending something to them? And this is going to be very different from using just standalone Excel. You don't have to be worried about sharing information that you don't want users to see, because if I shared this report with somebody that didn't have access to it, they wouldn't see, let's say they didn't have access to Australia, they wouldn't see that company. That was defined when we set them up as a user, okay? So very easy to share the reports. So you kind of have a general idea how the reports work, and if I wanted to make a change to the report and I had the designer capability or the ability to build reports, I could just go right from here to start editing and designing that report, okay? So one of the other things that you want to probably would be of interest to you would be trees. So we talked about the data warehouse, and the data warehouse does a lot more than just store data. It has a consolidation engine in it, it has a currency engine, and it has the ability to do trees. So if you wanted to go and, let's say, do trees within your reporting, and some of you are probably saying, well, what are trees? Well, I'll show you. So I'm not going to dive too much into consolidations today, but trees are important for any type of report that you build. So imagine that you wanted to report on companies based on a geographic region, or companies based on a line of business, or products based on a category, or customers based on what they're buying. Any type of hierarchical structure that you would want to build, you can do using trees. So in here, you can see a few examples. So I've got a geography tree, a line of business, maybe I've got some minority stuff, a lot of capabilities in here, and I can decide which trees are included and which trees are not when I build the report quite easily. But if I said, show me all of my companies in the Asia region, right? That's a tree, and you can see that in the Asia region, I have Singapore and Australia. I could just run that report. And when I built this report, I said, show me the results on separate tabs. I don't want to include them all in the same report. I could have if I wanted to, but I chose not to. So here you see a consolidated Asia region report, and then there's Australia individually, and you can see the numbers have changed, and then there's Singapore individually. At any point in time, if I just said, hey, I just want to see a report on Australia, I can just easily select Australia, and there it is, okay? So obviously, you might want to go and look at something like lines of business or something else, but it all works exactly the same way. And here's the beauty of this. I can run this report, 100 different ways, and I only ever built one report. So that will tell you the power of trees. So again, setting up trees and configuring those trees and being able to use those for reporting is extremely powerful. Okay. So let's talk about archive reporting. So if I went into specifically, we'll talk about the use of playlists. So some of you are probably doing board reports or management reports, and you have a report package. This is a fantastic way to be able to present data. This is one of many ways we can present data. But if you notice that I go in here and I say, here's my board report. Now think about the folks that you are sending to this, the executive leadership maybe, that they don't want to click through a bunch of stuff. They just, you want to send them an email that says, here's your report is ready. They've got a button they click and they're at that report. This is the tool for you, because I could actually schedule this with our publisher and schedule this board presentation to run at whatever frequency I want. So 8 o'clock, on the 5th of the month, since these executives in this format, and I can segment what they can and can't see. So they click a button, they would actually come to this report and it would open up just like this. So here they are, they've got their executive briefing. So they're looking at some information. Again, we're following the formatted reporting methodology now within Solver. So I've got my briefing. I can look at all the information, looking at how much cash is on hand. If I wanted to dive into that data, I could certainly dive into that data, all of which I could drill down to as well. So I could drill down to the lowest level of information. No detailed drill down there, but I could certainly drill down to the general ledger. So I could drill into all of the information that makes up the transactions if you wanted me to. And I really have all of that information to help me make informative decisions, right? And then all I have to do is just hover over the next report. So this next report is very powerful. So what you'll notice is it's multiple tabs, because this is what we call a report package that we've added to a playlist. And I'll talk about report packages in a second. I'll actually configure one for you. But what you notice is that it says US sees great improvement in September revenues. Well, you know I ran it for US and I ran it for September, but how does it know great improvement? How does it know the profitability this month was great, right? I didn't type any of this in. It's because it has the same type of drivers in it that you would have if you were doing budgeting and forecasting. So, it's looking at, it was better than 6% of this period last year, so that means great. Less than 6% is good. However you want to do that, you can build a full narrative on that report. And then right from there, they could just pop into the next report. If you didn't like the last P&L or you didn't think there was enough information in that, you certainly can have any information that you want and solve. No limitation. If I want actuals, budgets, forecasts in the same report, no problem. If I want to have multiple years in a report, no problem. So again, a nice looking P&L with, again, a lot of information related to traffic lights as well, a lot of indicators. So sales report, if you want to look at, some type of sales report, you can obviously add that in. If you are a manufacturer, you could add in manufacturing reports, maybe some payment informations, receivable information, really quite easily. You can build any type of playlist report and be able to send that off to your team. So we talked about report packages. So I'm going to kind of switch away a little bit from the financial side of things, and let's talk more about the sales side of it. So if I go into my favorites, I've got a number of sales reports in here. So you want to see a sales report? Fantastic. So this is coming not from my ERP, but it's coming from my CRM system. So here I am looking at a daily sales report, and I'm no longer filtering entity, budget scenario or period. I'm filtering a date, who the sales people are, the sales area and the sales people, and any product or item classes that I wanted to include, right? And I can filter and edit all of this information, again, should you want me to. And I have a good snapshot of daily sales, of which I can drill into all of this information. And I've also got multiple tabs that will probably give me different views of that data, right? So this report is great, but my sales manager wants more than just this report. Well, that's fantastic. So what I can do is I can say, I'm going to send them this daily sales report. And then I also have the CRM opportunities report and the top 50 opportunities. So this is by salesperson, this is by the opportunity. They'd like to be able to see all three of those reports. And you notice up here is I could add these to a category, so I could see what categories they're already in, and I could add them to other categories should I want to. But I'm going to add these to a report package. So I already have two packages, so this is going to ask me, do I want to add it to an existing package or do I want to create a new package? I'm going to create a new one. So I'm going to call this my monthly sales report, right? So, whoops, there it is. So in just a few seconds, I've added that report. And well, how do I know that report is here? Well, obviously I could go and search for it, but if I scroll down, you notice it's darker blue. So if I were to open this up or publish it out to the salesperson, sales manager, what they're going to see, and since I created a new report, I would have to run or package this report, I'd have to run it. And then what you're going to see is that I have the opportunities detail, I have my top opportunities, I have my main dashboard for my daily sales, and so on and so on. So I have multiple reports within this report package, okay? All of which can be published automatically out to the different users, or playlists can be created from that, okay? So, all right, let's stick on the CRM thing for a second. So salespeople don't like to see, the majority that I speak with don't really like to see the formatted reporting. So what if I wanted to deliver that information to them in a non-formatted environment? Well, I could do that as well. So I can remember we're dealing with the same set of information, right? The same set of data that's all within the Solver data warehouse. So they don't want a formatted, maybe they want one report formatted and another report and a dashboard, no problem. They can have either or both. And the goal is to deliver that information to them in the format that they want to see it. So here's a sales dashboard, right? These are all customizable, configurable, interactive. So if I wanted to go and decide or select which customers were going to be used or which periods were going to be used, you know that it's very interactive. So I can hover over things and I can see numbers. So I'm getting immediate results on the information, right? And this particular dashboard has multiple views. So if I wanted to go and look at customers and year-to-date information or last year-to-date, you know, how are we doing with those customers this year? I can, right? So it's really all up to what do I want to see. And of course, if I wanted to do anything with the sales opportunity with closure probability, here I'm looking at, you know, maybe where my customers are located. I'm looking at different salespeople. And again, if I didn't want to include a salesperson, I could just uncheck that. So the report is very interactive, or the dashboard is very interactive without me having to go and rerun a report, okay? So providing that information again to the users. So this is fantastic. So I've got the view. What if I wanted to change some of the information? Again, I'm the sales manager. What if I wanted to come into, you know, this is using all of that data that's coming from the Solver data warehouse, right? So what if I wanted to increase my price by 15%, let's say, okay? So you can see that I did that and the numbers are changing. Or I want to increase my deal size, average deal size by 25%. You know, any of these sliders that I make a change with, again, I can select months or deselect months. It's going to change those results and give me the targeted information that I'm looking for. So not only can I get the information from the Solver data warehouse, but I can easily manipulate it without having to go into a formatted template to be able to enter in data and save that data. So once I have all of the data, I can link that directly back to maybe a sales budget or sales forecast, where I can instantly go back and make those changes. So again, extremely powerful to have all of the tools at your fingertips, okay? So I'm not going to leave the manufacturing folks out. I've talked about financial and talked about sales. You know, if you wanted to do the same thing across manufacturing, I could go and show you, you know, tons of reports on you know, bill of materials and builds and machine and you know, doing all of the maintenance and you know, yields and all of that, and even the personnel. I could go and show you formatted reports for days on that, and I could also show you more of a dashboard view of it. So if you wanted to have something out in a plant where you're looking at information, certainly you do that where everybody's kind of up to speed, you know, all the time on what's happening within the plant. And you can see this particular dashboard across manufacturing is covering a lot of different areas. So some financial information, it's going to cover some benchmarking. So maybe you're going to look at your competitors in your industry if that information is made available. Monthly value to change in your inventory. You can see all your products again. So it's not just financial related information. It's a 360-degree view of the data across your organization, okay? And so on, right? And I'm not going to leave the financial folks out. So you saw the report, but if you didn't like that report, right, you didn't like that to be in a formatted fashion, you can always do the same within Power BI as well. And just like you saw what I did with sales or marketing or a production forecast or anything where I have the sliders, I can also do that with things like a cash flow forecast. So maybe somebody that's not in finance is participating in that cash flow process. They don't want to go and enter into a forecast template. They could come in and say my product revenue is going to be 25% increase, service revenue, they're just moving the sliders, and all along that's flowing all the way through to my ending cash balance, and then I can go and adjust the templates that are associated with that. So really, it's all about how do you want to see that information. Okay. Quick time check. Okay. I think that we can spend a little bit of time talking about, you've seen the formatted reports, you've seen the dashboards, but I'm guessing, I hear this a lot, that all of you have scenarios where different users across the organization are coming to you with all these one-off requests. Hey, did this customer pay us last month? How much did they sell versus last year? Did they get their products? And they might not have access to the system, the ERP or whatever it might be, that has that supporting data. And there's a number of reasons why you might not want to give them that access, but maybe you want to give them a tool that allows them to do those queries themselves, right? So no problem. I could go into ad hoc reporting, and I'm going to tell you this right now. You can make this tool available to everybody. It's one of the simplest tools that you can learn to use. If you went and watched one of our online videos in our Solver Academy, our e-learning environment, you'd be dangerous with this tool in less than an hour. So what can it do? Well, you can save and share different queries. Again, these are all ad hoc queries, so things you'll want to do on the fly. And just like the reports, you don't need to worry about, will I be sharing information that I don't want somebody to see? Because again, you've already set them up as a user. You've already decided what customers they can see, what accounts they can see, and so on and so on. So if I were a salesperson, I wanted to go into something that was either shared by somebody else or that I had saved, and I wanted to go and run a report, I can always, the query, excuse me, I can always go in and run, in this case, customer revenue by product. So I can see all of my customers, I can see the revenue, and I can even define it by location. So, which locations are my customers buying from? If I wanted to see what products my customers were buying, I could see those products or services as well quite easily. And I could even set up these graphs if I wanted to, where I said, show me a column group. This is a quick example, but I could see graphs in terms of, how they might be trending on certain products, but very easy to get into information here, okay? And of course, I can always change the period that I'm filtering it for, or add additional information that I want to include in this particular search, right? So very powerful to be able to go and search all of the information across your organization without having to go and bother people on a consistent basis, okay? So how easy is this? If I just were to just show you a quick view of this and just said, okay, new, and this is kind of an introduction to Solver's data warehouse here as well. So you see I'm in the general ledger, and I'll kind of keep to this, but these are all of my modules. So you have data across your organization, but maybe that data is not in a usable form, right? It's just mixed and mashed all over the place, and it's not in the way that you can easily use it, right? So what you can do in Solver is you can create modules that will help you organize that data so that it's, it's more usable, right? Across the organization. So GL, AP, AR, that's probably coming from my ERP, and maybe I've done acquisitions and I've got multiple companies, multiple ERPs. No problem, you can map those all together. My payroll might be a third party. I mean, clearly, doing something like Google Analytics, that's going to be a third party solution. I mean, outside of your ERP, excuse me. So you you're pulling that data in. It's not associated with your ERP. You can have anything, projects, really anything that you want. Your sales or your CRM data can be in there. All of it easy to mix and match. So if I just went in here and said, let me just go, I just want to go as an accounting example. I want to go in and see my account, and I want to see an account of my description of my accounts, and I just want to see what I've got. I want to go do a quick review. There it is, right? So I could go through and do a review. I could put in the periodic information. I could add amounts and say, tell me what my balance is, right? But imagine this tool, this quick query across everything in your organization. Very, very powerful, very simple, very powerful. And if you wanted to export the data out to Excel to be able to write formulas and manipulate data and what if scenarios type of thing, you can always do that as well. Okay. So I've covered a ton, and I've got a few minutes left here. So I'm going to just spend a few minutes talking about budgeting and forecasting. And I'm going to go right into an assignment. So I've kind of covered a high level on the ad hoc reporting, the formatted reporting, and believe me, I could go for another hour on formatted reporting, and covered the Power BI dashboard stuff, but lots and lots more to show. I encourage everybody to go out to our website. We've got tons of videos, tons of pre-built reports and examples that you can look at. But I'm going to close this session today by just talking a little bit about budgeting and forecasting, because I know some of the folks here it will be important to them. So a couple of different ways you can do this. One is, you've got the finance team or the budget team, doing all the input for everybody. That's fantastic, right? You just keep it within that environment, but maybe you want to pass it out to people to do contribution to the budgets and forecasts. So that's where I am now. So I have my annual budget. I open up my annual budget and I've got multiple templates, right? I've got one I haven't started yet. I've got 3 that are in progress, one that's awaiting review that I've submitted, and one that's completed. So if I were to complete a budget, I would not be able to go, I could view it, but I would not be able to go back and make any changes to that budget, okay? So let's just take other expenses as an example, because everybody's gonna have that, wanna see their expenses. So if I were to go in here and I were to look at expenses, there's not a lot that's been put in here, but I've worked with Excel before. So if I just said, hey, that's going to be 400, and I just wanted to take that across the year and be done with it, I could do that, right? Very easy. And then I could go on to the next one. I could add any commentary that I want to add, but we all know it's never going to be quite that easy. Also point out to you, very similar to the reports, as I have all these parameters here, but my budget manager is not allowing me to change any of these. So I can't actually go in and change. If I had access to multiple departments, they might unlock this for me and let me change from 100 to 200 and be able to do all the input and then save that data, right? So as with all of Solver, you can always expand the viewing environment. And so I just went in and put in employee counseling in there for 400, and maybe I want to just spread that across the whole year here. So I now have a number for that, but it's never that easy, right? Maybe I want to do some spreading and line item details. So in any budget, you can always come in and adjust your viewing space and open up the spreading and line item details, to which I see if I wanted to do some further spreading information, I could also do that as well. So if I wanted to say, instead of making that 4,800, I wanted to make that 6,800, and I wanted to use one of the spreading methods that were available to me. So it could be seasonality stuff. So, winter, summer, whatever that might be, whatever your spreading methods are, I could just simply go and spread that. So I spread that evenly across the year. Maybe I would want to adjust that based on a previous budget. I could simply go back and do that as well. I can also offset plus or minus periods if I've had previous periods that I don't want to include. Maybe I want to do a increase by percentage, plus or minus. So if I just said, hey, I want to increase that 15% over last year, I could do that. Or if I had a units-based budget, I could simply just change it to units, and I just went ahead and changed that. So 15% increase over the 2021 budget, I'm done. If I ever wanted to put any commentary in, I can do commentary. If you notice up here, if I come back up here and I scroll down a little bit, that I have these little red cell indicators, that's just telling me that I've got line item information. So if I were to take this and scroll down a little bit, you could, I love the way this is kind of slow here with GoToMeeting. But so if I wanted to scroll down here and I wanted to add some line item details, so whatever that's going to be that I'm going to put in there, a new vendor or whatever the vendor name is, I could do that. And you'll notice that I don't have, as soon as I hit the cell, it brought up that same spreading method to ask me if I want to use it. I could completely ignore it or change it. But I could go in here and put in 5,000. And if I wanted to add any commentary, you know that I can add comments anywhere within the budget process, okay? Anywhere within Solver. And it's just that simple, right? So how do you want to define your forms is completely up to you. This is just a very basic, simple example to get us, get us going here. I'm happy to show you more. If you want, you can reach out to your account reps and schedule a demonstration, and we could focus on the areas that are important to you. And just you could do an activity log. This could be commentary back to the budget manager or the approvers. And again, if I wanted to save that data, I could just save the data and come back to it later. If I wanted to complete that assignment, I could do that. At any point in time, if you want to see where you are within the process, so you passed it out to everybody and you want to know where is everybody in this process, well, you can see that. So if I were to go in here and I were to look at either by the status or by the template type, personnel's maybe going to be more important. I can see that Mike Kimbrough hasn't started this template yet. So I might want to reach out to Mike. I might want to message Mike, which I can do. I can message and they'll get the notifications here, or you can do that via email. So if I wanted to see kind of by the user type, where's Mike within this process, you can see all of that same information that you saw before when I went into that assignment, okay? So very, very powerful stuff. And again, if I went into input templates, when we talk about the learning curve between reporting and budgeting, you're gonna notice this looks, almost identical to what we saw in reporting, where I can create categories, define those categories, and then also I can have, virtually any type of budget or forecast template that I'd like to have is completely up to me, whether that's on, your workforce or whether that's on projects or, whatever it might be, demand planning, any of that type of stuff, you can create all of that information within the Solver environment, okay? So just to close, so everybody knows this, you have the one single data source, you have the tools to be able to deliver that information, and probably the thing that completes that circle is just making sure that your users have the experience and the knowledge. And I would say that Solver has a full support portal. You're only 2 clicks away from ever getting help from Solver. We pride ourselves in offering, the best support, on the face of the planet. If you've got a problem, we want you to reach out to us. We want to help you. All of the documentation on everything related to Solver is there. If you're not a documentation person and you'd rather go and watch the videos and learn via the Academy, we have a full e-learning Solver Academy. So you can learn at your stop and start, learn in your pace. And it's not just the tools and the applications within Solver, it's related to everything associated with Solver as well. So Excel, Power BI, etc. Lots of learning and information. And the good news is that everything within our environment comes with a user. We don't separate things out. It's not modular based. You get the Academy and all of the tools, and then the usage of the product is based on how you set up the user and their security levels and such.